Good evening. It was a potential lifeline for aircraft workers in East Yorkshire. New jets for the Red Arrows, promoted by Labour MPs and unions as a way to halt hundreds of potential redundancies announced at BAE in Brough yesterday. But today the government said that order did not exist and wouldn't for at least a decade. Our political editor Tim Ardo is in Westminster at the moment. Has this dashed workers' hopes today then?
It may well have, Peter. When those job losses were announced at BAE Systems, many came up with what they thought was a simple solution to ensure the Red Arrows had a fleet of brand new jets fit for the 21st century, whilst also preserving hundreds of skilled jobs in East Yorkshire. But you know, nothing in life and certainly nothing in politics is ever that simple. The Red Arrows are loved and admired across the globe, but at some stage these aircraft will need replacing. And many hoped parts for the new generation of Hawk jets will be manufactured at Brough, preserving jobs for future generations.
It would help now. Whether that's practically possible with the UK government and defence spending, we're very much pursuing opportunities in the Middle East, and I'm sure eventually a decision will be made.
However, today the Ministry of Defence appeared to rule that out. Officials here have told Look North the T1 Hawk aircraft used by the Red Arrows are due to remain in service until the year 2030, and there are no plans to replace them until then.
It would cost you about $250 million to buy those planes. It would cost you over the next decade the same amount to support them. So that's really just a bit of a toy, and this comes at a time where the UK desperately lacks modern infantry fighting vehicles, new amphibious ships, air defence ships. So, is that really a worthwhile investment?
So you're saying the Red Arrows aren't a priority?
They shouldn't be, not at all.
But the unions, still reeling from yesterday's announcement of 400 job losses at the Brough plant, are hoping to make a case to the government.
Well, if they want to protect a sovereign capability, then it's a necessity. If they're going to think about ordering these Hawks further in the future, then there's going to be no Hawks for sale, because the production line's going to end in 2020. And I think we need to make that message very clear to the government when we go down to see them in the Houses of Parliament next week.
The Department for Work and Pensions will make sure that they work with people and ensure they have all the support they need to look for new jobs.
Today the Prime Minister pledged to help BAE workers facing redundancy. Despite claims from some, the government's response hasn't been good enough.
I have just spoken to the Minister, literally. She has confirmed to me that the DWP is going to set up a special task force to help anyone who is at risk of losing their job, who doesn't wish to take redundancy. We're hoping the majority of these losses will be dealt with people who want to take redundancy or retire. But for those people that don't, the DWP will be helping them find employment, because these are vital skills that people have, and we want to make sure that they're working locally and helping the local economy.
But many are worried without new orders in the book, the skills base at Brough will be lost forever.
Tim, thank you. Well, Diana Johnson, the Labour MP for Hull North, is the MP for a number of the BAE workers and has previously asked questions in the Commons on replacing the Red Arrows Hawks. Diana Johnson, you said bringing forward an order for the Red Arrows would help minimise the job losses. Was that call a little premature yesterday?
No, not really, because I'd been raising this with the government since April 2016 when I asked a minister whether they were looking to renew the Red Arrows planes, and he said to me that the service contract they had would run until 2020.
When we made a quick call to the MOD, they confirmed that this wasn't going to happen for at least a decade. The Red Arrows are not needed until 2030. It's not even on the radar. Well, why didn't you and your fellow Labour MPs know that?
Well, in fact, the minister told me, and it's recorded in Hansard, the actual record of what was said, that the service contract would run out in 2020. And we know the planes that are currently being used were built in the 1970s. And at the recent Scampton Air Show, 4 of the Red Arrows planes couldn't be flown. So I think there are issues.
But if you jump in and say that very quickly, like the MPs did yesterday, it gives false hope, doesn't it? No, or it's an easy answer.
No, I think it's a very reasonable approach to say, let's bring bring forward the renewal of these aircraft, which we know are used around the world to demonstrate the high quality engineering that we have in this country.
You still think that then, do you?
Yes, and I think there are lots of members
even
of
though
Parliament,
the MOD have said today that they are not needed until 2030, it's not even on the radar.
With the greatest respect, I think the MOD have moved the goalposts here, because just 18 months ago they were telling me something very different. They were talking about 2020, and if you talk to the staff at BAE Systems, they will say to you that they were expecting a conversation about the renewal of Hawk in the 2018-2019.
I don't know what to believe here.
All I can tell you is what I was told by a minister in the House of Commons 18 months ago, that 2020 was the date, and what I'm told by the trade unions at Brough, who say they were expecting to have these conversations in the next couple of years.
We will get clarification on that, of course. Has BAE relied too much on the Hawk in recent years?
Well, of course, Brough is the home of the Hawk.
Yeah, that wasn't the question.
Well, it's the home of the Hawk, and the people who are working around the world to try and get orders for Brough and orders for the Hawk, I think there needs to be more impetus put into that. I think the government needs to do more to support Hawk. I think it's an aeroplane that we should be very proud of. It's got a long history. I think it's one that's well respected around the world.
Diana Johnson, very good to talk to you tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Diana Johnson, a short time ago. Let's go back to Tim at Westminster. Diana Johnson says that the Ministry of Defence is wrong about the date 2030. So does another MP, Labour's Carl Turney. What does the Ministry say in response?
I can tell you, Peter, that tonight the Ministry of Defence is sticking to its line that the Hawk jets used by the Red Arrows were never due to be replaced until 2030. Before then, according to officials, it simply would not be affordable. Labour MPs, they're walking around tonight handing me bits of paper saying they have evidence that the Cameron government as early as 2011 did plan on securing a new contract as early as 2020. It simply boils down to who do you believe, and certainly this will need to be ironed out by the time that union officials from Brough come down here next week to meet MPs. I don't think it is too strong to say that tonight many Labour MPs and the Ministry of Defence are at war over this.